Imagine a quiet little neighborhood, a place where nothing ever happens. That's where my wife and I thought we found our haven. A quaint community nestled in the heart of the city, yet so uncannily serene. We traded the hustle and bustle of our previous lives for the peace and tranquility of this idyllic suburb. The days were filled with the pleasant hum of lawn mowers and the distant laughter of children. Evenings were wrapped in the soft glow of porch lights, and nights were quiet, save for the occasional hoot of an owl. We were content, living our lives in this tranquil bubble, blissfully oblivious to the undercurrents of strangeness that lay beneath. It was a couple of months into this seemingly ordinary existence when our lives took an eerie turn. We first noticed it with the arrival of our new neighbors, but then, the new folks moved in next door, and that's when things started getting weird. At first glance, they seemed like any other family just trying to settle into their new home. But there was a peculiar aura about them, a feeling that didn't sit right. They wore smiles that never reached their eyes and exchanged whispers that were just out of earshot. It was like they were always watching, knowing more about us than they should. Their behavior was eerie, never leaving the house, always behind drawn curtains and dimmed lights. Attempts at neighborly greetings were met with an unsettling smile and a hastily shut door. And then, there were the noises, the scratching sounds that echoed from their house into the dead of the night. It started as a faint disturbance, like a desperate creature clawing against the walls. I tried to dismiss it as mere plumbing issues, but as the sounds grew louder, more frantic, it became impossible to ignore. And then, one night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was lying in bed trying to sleep, when I heard this blood-curdling scream coming from next door. The shrill sound cut through the silence, leaving me frozen in fear. My heart pounded against my chest like a wild drum, echoing the terror that filled the room. It was a scream that was more than just fear, it was pure, unadulterated terror. The house was suddenly filled with an eerie silence, the kind that makes your hair stand on end. It was as if the night itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next. And then, just as suddenly, a frantic scratching noise echoed from the house next door, like a desperate creature clawing at the walls of its prison. Driven by fear and concern, I leaped out of bed and dashed to the window, peering into the darkness. But the house next door was shrouded in mystery, its curtains drawn tightly, shutting out the world. The only sign of life was an ominous glow that seeped from the edges of the curtains, casting long, haunting shadows on the lawn. My mind raced as I grabbed my phone, dialing the number that no one ever wants to call. The police. Each ring echoed in the silence of the night, amplifying the dread that filled me. When they finally answered, my voice trembled as I reported the scream and the strange noises. But by the time the flashing lights of the police cars pierced the darkness, the eerie glow from the house had vanished. The noises had ceased, replaced by an unsettling quiet. The responding officers knocked on the door, only to be met with denial. The neighbors claimed they'd been watching a movie, a horror flick, they said. But their smiles didn't reach their eyes and their laughter seemed hollow, devoid of humor. I knew what I had heard, and it wasn't a movie, it was something real, something terrifying. But I had no proof, only the chilling memory of a scream that would haunt my dreams for weeks to come. After that night, things only got worse. I started noticing strange marks on their windows, like someone had been trying to claw their way out. Just the sight of them sent shivers down my spine, and I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. It was as if the house itself was crying out, desperately trying to reveal the chilling secrets hidden within its walls. And then, in the blink of an eye, they were gone. Vanished. The once lively house stood eerily quiet, its curtains perpetually drawn, the lights forever off. It was as if they had never existed, as if the house had swallowed them whole. The silence was deafening, and the sudden absence of the strange family next door left an unsettling void in the otherwise peaceful neighborhood. The police came around, asking questions, their faces masked with a professional veneer that did little to hide their underlying confusion. They combed through the house, their gloved hands sifting through remnants of a life suddenly abandoned. But they found nothing, no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, just an unsettling emptiness. They left as they came, their questions unanswered, their curiosity unsatiated. The house stood silent, its secrets carefully hidden behind its nondescript facade. The strange marks on the windows were dismissed as mere anomalies, the unexplained noises chalked up to the house's old age. And so, life continued in the quiet little neighborhood, the disturbing events slowly fading into obscurity. The house next door stood as a silent reminder of the enigma that once lived within its walls. It's like they were never even there. To this day I can't shake the feeling that something terrible happened in that house. The unsettling silence that replaced the eerie nocturnal noises was far from comforting. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, shrouding a secret too horrifying to reveal. The absence of the peculiar family next door didn't bring any relief, but rather amplified the mystery that loomed. The unanswered questions about them echoed in my mind, refusing to be silenced. Who were they, really? Their peculiar habits, their inexplicable seclusion, their cryptic smiles, every memory of them seemed like a piece of an unsolvable puzzle. I couldn't help but replay the chilling scream from that one dreadful night. It was a sound that bore into my consciousness, a stark reminder of the terror that once lived right next door. The strange markings on the windows, the eerie glow from their house. Were these mere coincidences or signs of something more sinister? The authorities found no evidence of any wrongdoing, but the lack of answers only fueled my curiosity and dread. The house next door, once a symbol of suburban tranquility, had morphed into a monument of mystery and fear. The family that once resided there had vanished, but their eerie presence lingered, a phantom whisper in the still of the night. The truth about what happened in that house may forever remain a mystery, an enigma buried beneath layers of unanswered questions. But one thing's for sure, I'll never forget the strange family next door. I'm alone in the woods, relishing the fresh air and the silence. The tranquility of the forest is a soothing balm, the rustling leaves whispering stories of nature's grandeur. As the sun dips low, painting the sky with hues of red and orange, a serene sense of solitude embraces me. Yet the setting sun also brings an unsettling realization. Nightfall is swiftly approaching. Walking along the well-trodden trail, a soft murmur begins to permeate the air, a sound that is not quite the wind, nor the rustling leaves. It's a whisper, faint but insistent. At first it's easy to dismiss as the forest's natural soundtrack, but then the whisper grows clearer, sharper, morphing into voices. These aren't the comforting voices of nature, but rather, they possess an ominous undertone, a chilling hint of malice. A sense of unease starts to creep in. I stop, my heart pounding in my chest as I strain my ears to locate the source of this unsettling chorus, but the whispering voices seem to be all around me, pervading the very air I breathe. The words they utter are disconcerting, echoing warnings like, "You shouldn't be here, and you're not safe." A chill runs down my spine, the hair on the back of my neck bristling at the menacing tone. The instinct to flee grips me, and I quicken my pace, the crunching leaves underfoot keeping rhythm with my accelerating heartbeat. Strangely though, every attempt to retrace my steps seems futile. The trail appears to twist and turn, morphing into a confusing labyrinth. It's as if the forest itself is playing a cruel game, leading me deeper into its shadowy depths. And then the most disturbing realization dawns upon me. The feeling of being watched, a sensation so palpable it's almost tangible. The whispering voices, the shifting trails, and now, this unnerving sensation of unseen eyes boring into me from the darkening woods. I can't shake the feeling that something's watching me from the trees. Suddenly I stumble upon a clearing and there's an old cabin right in the middle. It's as if the cabin materialized out of thin air, sitting there brooding in the dying light. I've been hiking these woods for years, but this cabin, it's never been here before. It's as if it's been waiting, biding its time, waiting for me. From within, a voice echoes out. It's not the whispering that's been following me, but a deep, guttural voice, the kind that sends shivers down your spine. It's calling my name. An unseen siren, singing a chilling lullaby, drawing me towards it. I'm like a moth to a flame, knowing full well the danger, yet unable to resist. I approach the cabin, each step heavier than the last. The wood creaks under my feet, the sound echoing in the silent evening air. The whispers, those voices that have been my unwanted companions, they suddenly fall silent. It's as if the very air is holding its breath, waiting, anticipating. The door of the cabin swings open with a haunting groan, inviting me into its darkened interior. I step over the threshold, my heart pounding in my chest. The door creaks shut behind me, sealing me in. The eerie silence is all-consuming, as if the world outside no longer exists. Inside, the cabin is as old as it looks on the outside, the air heavy with the scent of damp wood and decay. The light from the setting sun barely makes it through the grimy windows, casting long, ominous shadows that seem to dance with every flicker. My heart skips a beat as I hear my name again, the voice deeper, closer. It's as if the cabin itself is speaking to me, its timbered voice echoing through the silence. I can feel my pulse throbbing in my ears, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I want to run, to escape from this nightmare, but my feet won't obey. I feel a chill creeping up my spine, a sense of dread washing over me. The whispers may have stopped, but the silence is even more terrifying. It's as if I've stepped into another world, one where only fear resides. As I got closer, the whispering stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to swallow me whole. The cabin, this mysterious, terrifying entity, had me in its grasp and there was no escape. Inside the cabin, things take a truly eerie turn. The atmosphere instantly shifts, the air becomes heavier, and the scent of age-old dust fills my nostrils. The walls of the cabin, under a layer of grime, are adorned with symbols that seem to dance in the dim light. They're not the playful scribbles of a child left alone with a crayon. No, these are deliberate, crafted with a purpose I can't fathom. They're reminiscent of a ritual, ancient, cryptic, and distinctly unsettling. In the heart of the room, the epicenter of this uncanny spectacle, stands an old, dusty mirror. The frame is ornate, delicately carved with the same symbols that adorn the walls. It stands there, a silent sentinel, an eerie relic of a time long past, drawn towards it as if by an invisible force. I approach the mirror. The whispers have ceased, replaced by a silence so profound it's almost deafening. It's like the world is holding its breath, watching, waiting. I stand before the mirror, and what I see reflected back isn't what I expect. There, within the confines of the dusty glass, a shadowy figure stares back. It's not my reflection, it's something else, something not of this world. The figure is vague, formless, a wisp of darkness that seems to undulate and shift with every passing second. And its eyes, oh, those eyes. They glow a fiery red, a stark contrast against the void it inhabits. They pierce through me, seeing into my very soul. A cold dread washes over me, a fear so intense it's paralyzing. I want to run to escape this nightmare, but I can't. I'm held captive by those glowing red eyes, drawn into their mesmerizing gaze. The whispers return, louder now, a cacophony of voices that fills the cabin, echoing in my mind. It was like I was frozen in place, staring into the glowing red eyes of the shadow in the mirror. Just as suddenly as it had started, the whispering starts up again, louder than ever. The voices seem to echo from the walls of the cabin, bouncing off the strange symbols and filling the room with a chilling sound. It was as if the very air was alive with the terrifying whispers. Panic surged through me, a tidal wave of fear that left me breathless. The cabin, once a refuge, now felt like a trap. I bolted the door, slamming shut behind me. The whispering voices were replaced by the eerie silence of the woods. As I ran, each step was a desperate plea for escape. The trees blurred into a whirl of green and brown. My heart pounded in my chest, echoing the rhythm of my flight. Finally, my car came into view. Clambering in, I vowed to myself, I've never gone hiking in those woods again, and I don't plan on ever going back. With a pause, I added, or so I thought. A birthday invitation from an old friend Jake landed in my mailbox. Little did I know it was an invitation to a night of horror. I remember the crisp, white envelope, innocently nestled amongst the usual bills and junk mail. My name, written in Jake's familiar scrawl, held no indication of the terror that lay ahead. As old buddies do, we drifted apart over the years, yet the bond of shared history was strong. I looked forward to a night of reminiscing, laughter, and perhaps a little bit of harmless mischief. The anticipation of a fun-filled birthday bash, a respite from the monotony of everyday life, was exhilarating. I could almost hear the music, taste the cake, feel the warmth of camaraderie. Little did I know the party I envisioned was a far cry from the reality I was about to face. Stepping over the threshold of Jake's house, an eerie feeling crept up my spine. The moment I stepped in, the air felt heavy, charged with a foreboding silence. Instead of the joyful chaos of a birthday bash, an eerie stillness seemed to hang over the room. The decorations were far from ordinary, with unfamiliar symbols suspended in the air, casting odd shadows on the walls. They were unsettling, these symbols, like something out of a strange dream, stirring an uneasy feeling deep within me. A sense of dread started to creep in as I noticed an unknown figure lurking in the corner of the room. His eyes were intense, almost predatory, and his smile, it was anything but comforting. A cold shiver ran down my spine every time our eyes met, his smile growing wider each time, as though he was privy to some dark secret. As the night wore on, partygoers started to vanish, like smoke into thin air. An unspoken panic began to take hold, and the unsettling atmosphere intensified. Suddenly, the room was swallowed by darkness, a blanket of fear settling over us. The jovial chatter and laughter that filled the room moments ago were replaced by hushed whispers, and the sound of shuffling feet. A sense of unease gripped me. The party had taken an unexpected turn and I was helplessly adrift in the sea of uncertainty. A blackout, I thought, trying to calm my racing heart, nothing more than a harmless power outage. But with each passing second, the crushing weight of the dark seemed to grow heavier, suffocating the rational thoughts in my mind. I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, hoping to use its light to navigate through the labyrinthine darkness. But as I held it up, a low guttural chanting began to resonate through the house, seeping into every corner, every crevice. It was a sound so primal, so eerie, it sent a shiver dancing down my spine. The whispers of the partygoers were silenced, replaced by this haunting chorus. I called out for Jake, my voice a mere whisper against the deep, resonating chant. He was the reason I was here, the birthday boy, my friend. But there was no response, only the relentless chant, growing louder, more insistent. Fear tightened its grip, squeezing my heart in its icy hold. My mind screamed at me to leave, to run from the unknown terror the darkness held. But I was drawn towards the sound, towards the heart of the unknown. My feet moved of their own accord, leading me through the house, each step echoing in the oppressive silence that hung between the chants. As I stumbled through the dark, my hand brushed against something cold and metallic, a doorknob. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped into the room beyond. The chanting was louder here, the air thicker, heavy with an unseen presence. Fumbling through the darkness, I stumbled into the living room where a sight straight out of a nightmare awaited me. In the gloom, a circle of figures loomed ominously, their chanting ceasing as I entered, and in the center of them all, a chilling sight that would forever be etched into my memory. In the center of the room, encircled by the unnerving symbols and a group of people, lay Jake, motionless. That's when my heart sank. There he was, my friend Jake, lying completely still on the floor. The weird symbols I had noticed earlier were now surrounding him, like some kind of dark, mysterious ritual. The sight was so surreal it felt like I was stuck in a nightmare. But the chilling reality was, this was no dream. The room was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by the low, guttural chanting that seemed to be emanating from the walls themselves. The group of people, their faces obscured by the shadows, continued their ominous ritual. Their voices, rising and falling in a rhythm that was almost hypnotic, filled the room with a sense of dread that was palpable. My mind was screaming for me to run, to get out of there as fast as I could, but my body was frozen in place, locked in a state of fear-induced paralysis. It was as if an invisible force was holding me back, keeping me rooted to the spot. As the chanting grew louder, my sense of dread intensified. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end, a cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in, the air growing heavy and oppressive. I tried to call out, to break the spell that seemed to have been cast over the room, but no sound came out. I was trapped in my own body, a silent observer to the horrifying scene unfolding before my eyes. Just when I thought I could take no more, the chanting reached a fever pitch. The voices of the group rose to a chilling crescendo, filling the room with a sound that was almost deafening. And then, without warning, the room fell silent. The chanting stopped, the people disappeared, and I was left standing alone in the room. My heart pounded in my chest, the only sound in the deafening silence. And then, silence. A deafening silence that echoed in the empty room. The chilling reality of what had just happened hit me like a ton of bricks. Jake was gone. The partygoers were gone, and I was left alone with the eerie remnants of what was supposed to be a birthday celebration. The lights flickered back on, revealing an empty room, the remnants of a party strewn around me. The once lively space was now eerily silent, devoid of any human presence. The laughter, the music, the chatter, all had been replaced by a chilling stillness that clung to the air like a shroud. The decorations, those odd symbols hung limply, their sinister charm now apparent in the harsh light. I was alone. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Jake, the guests, the mysterious stranger, they were all gone, as if swallowed by the darkness that had invaded the house moments ago. A cold dread seeped into my bones, making my body shiver uncontrollably. The festive joy had morphed into a spectral horror, the memories of the evening twisting into grotesque images in my mind. The room, the house, was a haunting monument of a birthday party that had spiraled into an unimaginable nightmare. In the chilling silence I was left alone, with the haunting memories of a birthday party turned nightmare.